Chapter 106. Issue 106. The Amazing Web Part 20. The Guardians of the Galaxy clued Nebula in on what they just went through while they followed Quill, who was carrying his father out to the bedrooms. "So, what happens with the planet?" Tony asked. "Technically, it belongs to Quill now," Peter replied. "Cool, so, can I take apart some of the tech?" "No need, Mr. Stark. I will open my databases to allow full access to my schematics." "Really? Great." Tony walked over to the screen and started memorizing everything he could. "So, are we done?" Eric asked. "Yeah. Enjoy the vacation on the planet. Cut loose." Peter walked off. "Where are you going?" Steve asked. "To give Quill's siblings a proper grave." "I'll help," MJ said while holding the hand of her soon-to-be husband. Steve put his hand on his shoulder and said, "I got nothing better to do." "You should bring Peggy here sometime. I'm sure she'd love it," MJ chuckled. "Hey, Vision. Help us make a graveyard close to the bodies," Peter shouted out. "No need, Spiderman," Vision replied while focusing on the area. The entire cave system was turned into a cathedral so the children could properly rest. Peter smiled and shook his head. "Well, I guess that frees up my time. Anything you guys want to do?" "We could look around," Steve looked to his team. "Well, Avengers? How about it?" "I'm down. I was on edge the whole time we were here, so I didn't get to really take the sights in." Pietro jumped to their side. Peter smirked as he realized that in a couple hours, he too would become a speedster like Quicksilver thanks to how long he wore the suit. Everyone but Tony joined in and went out to explore the world and all its wonders. While they enjoyed their time on Planet Vision, Quill waited for his father to wake up with his fellow Guardians. "So, this is Quill's father?" "I did not expect him to be the Spartacian Emperor," Nebula spoke with crossed arms. "What happens now? Does Quill go with him to rule a planet?" Drax spoke up. "Not really. After all, he might be my dad, but he's not my family. A total stranger really." "You guys are my family," Quill said as he gave his unconscious father a pensive expression. Rocket hid his expression, but those words brought him comfort. "It's getting a little mushy in here. I'm going out for some air." "I am Groot." "Nah, you keep our idiot captain company. Besides, I want to check out those mineral deposits." It took a while for him to wake up, but sometime during the next morning, they all started preparing to head home. While Quill stayed next to his father through the night, Peter visited and sat down from across from him. "What?" Peter smiled as he sat back and asked, "Want some advice?" "Sure. I know that it's weird that your dad just came back into your life. I honestly can relate. My parents were kidnapped by Nazis and imprisoned while I thought they had died. It wasn't until recently that I managed to save them." Quill looked surprised. "For real?" "Yeah, turns out Hydra was still around. We put them away for good and I got my parents back. However, it was awkward between us for a while. Eventually, we managed to get back to normal though. Time, Quill. Just give him time. That's it. Do you want me to lie to and say that it'll be the best thing in the world and you two will become best buds the moment he wakes up?" "No. I didn't think so. You guys will talk, maybe even get angry at each other and fight, but keep in mind, he's your father. He may not be the only one you have in your life, but he's blood." "I don't have more than one father," Quill lifted a brow. "Yondu may not be your daddy, but he is most certainly your father." "Ah." Quill was at a loss for words. He raised you, and while it may not be what you would have wanted, he put himself at risk to keep you safe. He cares, Quill. "Right. So, I think I forgot to tell you, but this planet is basically yours." "I don't want it," Quill replied with a stern expression. "That's fine too. No, I mean we have our own planet. We bought a star system with the money we got from the collector's bank account. We've been talking about recruiting more people to the Guardians of Galaxy in preparation of taking on Thanos." "Speaking of Thanos, what's the word on that Eternity Forge?" Peter accepted that Quill wanted to change the subject. "We'll be leaving in a bit to go get it. We may run into Thanos' men, so it would be appreciated if you could come with us." "Sure, I can spare some more of my time. Besides, I'm curious about the forge. Legends say it can even revive the dead with some kind of consequence." Star-Lord gave him a look of disbelief. "That's not real. Quill, we're standing on a living planet that's as old as the universe. Anything is possible." "Okay, Parker, if what you're saying is real, then this trip just got a whole lot more interesting." Peter got up and started to walk out of the room. "I'll be waiting for you to finish up here. For now, I'll go tell the others our job might not be done just yet." "Parker, thanks for giving my siblings a grave." "Ah, Vision deserves the thanks for that one. But he's the one. Isn't ego anymore. I wasn't joking when I said he's been reborn. I didn't make him until the previous incarnation died, Peter waved as he left. Looking over the planet, Peter smiled and said, "Well, once we leave, it should begin its mission to terraform planets across the countless stars." "I look forward to it," Vision spoke up from behind Peter. "Since I made it so that you don't need to stay on the planet anymore, what are you going to do next?" "I'd like to go to Earth with you. I feel that I still need to learn more about magic, and the Sorcerer Supreme should be able to answer my questions." "That's fine too. Welcome aboard, Vision." "The Avengers are glad to have you," Peter shook his hand. "Now I have to tell everyone else about the forge." He walked off to meet up with the others when Jason started to rouse from his slumber. When he saw his son, the Emperor forced himself to get to his feet. "I'm free." "Yeah, look, Dad. I don't know what you expect from me, but I don't see you as my father. It's been far too long for that." "However," Quill stood up, "I intend to give you a chance. Son." Jason gave him a hug. "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. I wish I was strong enough to fight Ego. But I couldn't stop him from murdering your mom. I did everything in my power to hide the memory of her. But I don't blame you for her death. I know that Ego was to blame." Quill hugged back. When they parted, he looked at his son and smiled. "I can't believe she had a kid. When I found out about you, it gave me hope." "Thanks. So, I spoke with my team, and we've agreed to let you come along with us. If you want to." "Peter, I'm an emperor that has been away from his throne for far too long. I have a responsibility to my people." Quill looked like that stung a bit, but he understood. "We figured that it would be like that. But I can still consider you a member in spirit." "Son, look, ugh. All right, what's a couple months or years?" Despite Ego stealing my body, he kept his word and looked after Spartax. "I sure that. First rule of the Guardians of the Galaxy, never say what can go wrong, because believe me, something will." Jason chuckled. "All right, I'll stick around your group for a while. But I want you to come to Spartax with me when you can." "Dad, I'm no ruler. You don't have be, just please come with me." "I'll think about it," Quill said as he opened the door. "Come on, I'll introduce to the rest of my crew." "Right." Jason made his way out and was met with Vision staring him down. "Who's he?" "I am Vision, and I want to help you get something back." The organic android placed his hand on Jason and used the celestial blood within him to return him to his prime age. "The years my previous incarnation stole from you, I now return it. Quill, you're always welcome on my planet." "Sure. All right, thanks, Vision." Quill nodded his head as he looked at his dad and asked, "Feel better?" "Much." Jason took a deep breath. "Can I still use the powers of Ego?" "While you are close to the planet, yes. When you leave, it'll be like a battery that needs to be recharged. However, your son is a natural-born half-celestial. He might be able to charge your energy when needed." "How about that?" Jason's hands lit up as he made a pair of element guns and holstered them at his hip. "All right, let's get back to the ship," Quill smiled. "Right. I guess I own the celestial carriage now too?" Jason questioned. "You are more than welcome to take that vessel as your own." Vision nodded his head. "What are you going to do?" Quill asked. "I will go to Earth while terraforming planets at every star I pass along the way. Since I no longer need to stay on my main body, I am free to do as I wish. However, I want to see my creator's world and learn from them. Peter and Mary Jane are good people. If I hear about you betraying them or trying something, he'll have to face the Guardians of the Galaxy." Rocket hopped off the roof and landed next to Quill. "I am Groot. Earth is a place that's special to us," Gamora added. "It allowed me to avenge my family and made me a hero that kills for justice rather than vengeance," Drax said while standing beside Groot. "It saved me from a monster and gave me the power to fight back my oppressor," Nebula spoke up as she stood by their side. "I am Groot. Oh crap, we have to head back to Earth and pick up Groot." Rocket looked worried. "Groot." Drax sounded confused. "Baby Groot, Groot," Rocket explained. "I like it." Quill nodded his head. "This is quite the family you made for yourself, son." Jason spoke up as he reminded of his fellow squad mates in the army. "Yeah, and now I'm adding my sister." Quill looked over at Mantis who was hiding behind a door. Hello, father." Mantis waved her hand. "Brother. She's Ego's child, not mine. Not to mention, she kept me a prisoner in my own body." Jason was less than pleased. Mantis shrank back before Quill stopped him. "Well, she was made with your junk. So, Dad, you should know better. She had no choice to do what Ego told her to. You know what he would have done if she didn't. She was just as much a prisoner as you were." Gamora spoke in her defense. "Look, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can ever call her daughter. With Meredith, it was something I actually wanted, but Ego fathered hundreds of children with my body. I'm sorry, I just can't." They met up with the rest of the group to see Peter looking at a star chart. "Hey, glad you could join us," MJ said as she looked away from the screen. "What you looking at?" Rocket questioned. "The location of the forge. I double-checked Nebula's information with my gemstones. With this, we can get there before Thanos' men get anywhere near it." Peter opened a portal. On the other side was none other than the forge from the Telltale series. It looked like a pair of pyramids with their tops connected or like a blocky hourglass made of some strange metallic substance. He reached in and plucked it out and said, "Huh, that was easy." "What is it?" Rocket asked as he looked at the strange-looking relic. "Something very dangerous, but in the right circumstances, very useful," Peter tossed it to Vision. The new living planet looked at it with a confused expression. "It has the ability to resurrect the dead," Peter explained, drawing gasps from everyone. "However, it comes at a cost. It needs to take life to charge it." "I see." Vision rubbed his chin. "Since I can create life, the forge won't require sacrifice. So, how about you make up for your previous incarnation's mistakes?" Vision nodded his head as he thought of all the women he killed to make his children and the children themselves. The forge lit up as a group of people appeared around Vision. All of the children that had died for not inheriting the celestial gene and their parent appeared. However, while they showed confused expressions, Quill ran into the crowd and hugged the woman he hadn't seen since he was 8. "Mom!" Peter smiled as he saw Jason run over next to them and joined in. The group was tearing up while Vision did his best to calm his children and explain that Ego was dead. It took a while, but they eventually managed to come to peace with what happened. The mothers wanted off the planet, and Vision completely understood. He provided them ships that would take them home. However, around 30 of them decided to stay on planet Vision. This is crazy. Could it bring my parents back?" Tony asked. "Anyone else got some dead friends or family you need reviving?" Peter laughed. "Pete, this is actually crazy." "I know." "Holy crap," Janet's eyes widened. "We can't let people know about this," Mary Jane spoke up. "Yeah. But what can they do about it? Do you know how powerful this planet is?" Peter spoke up. "I mean, do you have any idea how lucky we got beating him? If not for knowing how he'd act, the illusion would have been pointless, and we wouldn't have had the time to trap him with Scarlet Witch's magic. We fought an ego that couldn't use more than a single % of his actual powers. Everything hinged on him letting us on his surface in the first place." "Ah. Well, we still shouldn't blab. I can't imagine what kind of forces will come out here if they realize that there's a relic that can revive people." Gamora was busy trying to get Vision agree to revive the people on her home planet and help undo what Thanos has been doing to their universe. Vision surprisingly agreed to do so. Tony's parents were revived shortly thereafter. Magneto revived his wife, Magdalene Share, and reunited them with her children. Charles had some mutants and old friends that died in WW2 revived. Rocket brought back his whole animal crew that was killed during the Great Escape from the High Evolutionary Slab. Each of the animals was bipedal and showed signs of genetic modification like Rocket. Though, it wasn't as bad as it was in the movies. It appeared that they were all a bit more advanced along their evolutionary path than the one shown in the Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3. They all were around Rocket's stature, bipedal, and had opposable thumbs. There was Lila the otter, Walrus the walrus, Pyko the turtle, Blackjack O'Hare the rabbit, and Stinker the skunk. Drax got his wife and daughter back, Nebula her parents back, Cap brought back some people he lost in the war, and Mantis got her mom back. Peter had a few people in mind, the men that died at Mayhem's hand during the prison escape, and believe or not, Norman Osborn. "Peter? What? Where?" "I was sure I was dead." Norman looked rather panicked as he recalled his time in hell. "You got a second chance, Normie. Use it for redemption." "I'll explain you resurrection later." Peter looked around for Lady Death and sighed in relief when she was nowhere in sight. "I guess as long as I play by the rules, she shouldn't care." When they were brought back, he opened a portal to their homes and waited for the call that his friend would probably be spamming. MJ didn't really have anyone she had lost, so she and Scott were the only ones not to use the forge. Janet learned that her mother was still alive thanks to it not working and hugged Scott with tears in her eyes. "You know, I can probably help you find her," Peter smiled. "You can." The miniaturizable heroes shouted. "Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but I feel I should inform you that a being brought back by the forge cannot be brought back a second time. One treasure the lives you have regained, for it is the only one you have," Vision commented. "Is that true?" Quill looked to Peter. It was clear that he didn't trust the celestial android just yet. "Yeah, so don't go thinking you can just ignore death," Peter informed the group. "Well, an extra life is always welcome in my life." Tony laughed as he saw his parents still marveling over the majestic sight of the living planet. "Shall we go home then?" Peter yawned. "Yeah, I want to get back to my kid." Scott rubbed the back of his head. "She's never going to believe me." Luckily we have evidence, Janet chuckled. You know, I want to visit Earth, Jason called out. What are you going to do, Mom? Quill asked. I think I'll live with your father. But it would be nice to take a piece of Earth with me. Not to mention any valuables I used to own. Hopefully my brother still has some. Hey Vision. Take care of my siblings, will ya? They are my children, I'll do my best to look after them. A clone of Vision appeared before it led them to their new homes. If they want, I'd be glad to let them become guardians of the galaxy. They can live on our planet too. Quill spoke up. They said they wanted to stay here for now, but I shall inform them. All right, let's go home, Peter shouted as they boarded the ship. While they traversed back to the Earth, millions of stars away, Thanos himself was making his way to a Kree outpost. Almost an entire day later, he finally was able to intrude upon a vault, fully expecting to see the Eternity Forge waiting for him. However, what was there was a single piece of paper that had Spider-Man's face on it with the words written below it. Better luck next time, you dumb purple dinosaur. Sincerely yours, the one and only friendly galactic Spider-Man. Thanos huffed as he felt a strange feeling brewing inside him. He hadn't had much familiarity with anger, since there were very few things that could anger him. However, Spider-Man made him feel the emotion on a level that was never before thought possible. He crushed the paper in his hand and turned to his two remaining children, Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw. Find out who he is. I don't care if you have to scour the universe. I want his name and planet. Yes, father. Ebony nodded his head with a fearful expression. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Peter was dealing with Harry freaking out over his dad's revival. How? Peter. Seriously, how? Magic artifact that was made by a very powerful being is my best answer. Could be the tool of some ancient celestial, or handmade by eternity itself, Peter smirked. So, what happens now? Norman asked while holding on to his wife who was still sobbing against his chest. We can just say you faked your death to avoid assassination. Arcadia Corp has already absorbed Oscorp, so you can feel free to join us as a board member. However, I hope you keep in mind that we keep our hands clean, so I expect you to do the same. Believe me, Peter, being dead really changed my outlook on life. I promise, you'll see an entirely different Norman than you're used to. Good to hear. Don't waste your second life and take care of your family. Peter opened a portal and jumped through. He had stuff to do, like make false medical reports of the mayhem incident so that the police officers that died that day could go back to their lives. They had to tell people they were in a top-secret medical facility because of the unique way that they died. All of them agreed to the cover stories and were eager to get back to their families, so they didn't put up much of a fuss. Once that was settled, Spider-Man checked in on Vision to see him conversing with Jarvis about various magical and technological ideas. How do you like Earth so far? Vision turned to Peter and smiled. I've been here before, but, as Vision, it's like seeing it for the first time but familiar at the same time. Interesting way of putting that, Peter smiled. Are you here for Mr. Stark? Jarvis spoke up. I am. I came to see how his parents are adapting to all of this. I'll inform him of your visit. Jarvis nodded his head. Peter left Vision and headed inside to see Tony showing his parents around the place. Howard was proud of what his son had achieved and couldn't wait to pick apart a lot of the tech he saw. His mother was just happy to finally have the chance to be with her family again. She was even happier to be talking to her soon-to-be daughter-in-law. Hey, if it isn't my favorite Spider, what are you doing here? Tony called out as he walked over and gave Peter a hug. Good to see you too. Peter hugged back. So is everyone adjusting well? Tony has told us a lot about you. Thank you for looking after my son. Howard shook Peter's hand. It was nothing. I mean, he's a lot trouble, but Tony's good people, so he's worth it. Maria chuckled. He's funny. I know, right? Peter held his hands out. However, not everyone agrees. Jarvis' voice came over the intercoms. Sir, Steve and Peggy are here. Howard's eyes lit up as he said, let them in. Well, I'd hate to ruin your reunion, so I'll get out of your hair. Just let me know if you guys need anything. I got it covered, Spider-Nerd. I even plan on giving them both the Captain America treatment. Got it, Peter opened a portal. Make sure your schedule is cleared for the 15th. I'm getting married in a bit. Will do. Tony still had a vibrant smile on his face. Before I leave, when's yours? We're going to hold the ceremony at the beginning of spring, Pepper said with a bit of blush on her face. Right, I'll make sure to clear the schedule for your wedding. Peter jumped through and closed the portal behind him. He appeared at a densely populated area to see Quill showing his family everything he loved about Earth. Rocket and Groot drew a lot of eyes. However, since they had mutants, most people just figured that they were metahumans. The crowd of Jason, Meredith, Quill, Gamora, Nebula, Drax, Groot, Brut, Yondu, Mantis, Rocket, and his furry little friends all had smiles on their faces as they learned more about Earth culture, while Drax was mostly for the food. The Guardians of the Galaxy feels a lot bigger with all of them in it, Peter commented as teleported away with a huge smile on his face. He returned home and saw MJ cooking with Aunt May. With a smile on his face, he walked up and placed his arms around her waist before kissing her cheek from behind. Having fun? Always. MJ smiled as she leaned back and gave him a kiss on the lips. Snap. Aunt May grinned as she looked at the photo on her phone. That one's going in the album. They shared a laugh when Peter smiled and said, "You know, I'm really happy right now." As he nuzzled the back of her neck, MJ giggled and said, "Pete, I have my hands full right now." "All right, I'll give you space. I'll be in my lab." Peter opened another portal. "Be home in time for dinner," MJ shouted. "K. Love you, babe." Once he was in his lab, Peter walked over to the gene augmentation section and took hold of Gambit's enhanced X gene. "Well, I couldn't mix this one into a single power, so I wonder what I should mix with this one to improve it." Peter couldn't wait to finish it, because the moment he did, he would have a few places to travel in the amazing web of life and destiny. 1. So many people help. And a lot to learn. I have a feeling my story is just getting started. Chapter 107. Issue 107. The Amazing Web Part 21. Weeks later, while enjoying the slow life on Earth, Peter found himself suddenly ducking under a giant green arm. "Hey, hey, hey! You said you wouldn't dodge," Hulk shouted out as he stopped their spar. "Sorry about that, force of habit." Peter got back into position and punched out at the giant green man. Their fists clashed and shook the training room they were in. Their knuckles mashed together, pushing against each other to see who would cave in first. So, increased gravity actually works. Who'd have thought? Even I feel like I could work up a sweat in here. Hulk smirked as he suddenly sent Peter flying. "Why did you want to train with me again? I know you heal, but that's a serious health risk." "Oh hush, you've gotten pretty cocky since you've started mastering your powers." Peter got off the ground and charged. "In case you haven't noticed, bit by bit, I'm getting stronger." "Yeah, what's up with that?" Bruce slapped Peter into the ground. "New power. If I take damage from physical attacks, I can convert that into helping my physique evolve to the next level. Not to mention, the stronger the opponent, the quicker I grow." "Neat. So, I should probably stop holding back." "You can hold back a little." Peter gulped as he suddenly tried to punch his friend. "Nah, I know you don't mean that." The Hulk grabbed him by the wrist. "No, I really do." Peter cringed in pain. The Hulk then smashed the spider by grabbing his leg and slamming him side to side. He followed it up by tossing him into the air before punching him as hard as he possibly could. If the room they weren't in reinforced with magical and a variety of unbreakable materials, the whole place would be in ruins from the force of that single blow. Peter hit the wall and felt all his bones and organs screaming in pain while they recovered. However, every time they did, he got stronger and stronger. After a very long beating, Peter started to catch up to the Hulk's raw power. His physique became so incredibly durable that not even the strongest Avenger could damage it without risking a Code Green episode. The Hulk still got stronger the more he channeled his emotions. However, until he completely fused with his Hulk persona, it would remain much slower than normal. Once Peter was able to fight back, they continued cranking up the gravity while pushing their physical abilities to new heights entirely. Once they both worked up a good sweat, Peter used his chi to completely dominate the Hulk. He even managed to knock him out after an hour of straight combat. The doors opened as the two sweaty men came out of the training room. "Damn, Pete. You weren't joking. That's one crazy power you got there." The Hulk rubbed his sore chin. "You know, once you completely master your powers, strength will just become whatever you need it to be. I'm looking forward to a spar with Hulk Maximum." "Ha ha ha. I wonder if that's true." Bruce slapped him on the back and sent the spider tumbling forward. "Sorry. Stronger than I used to be. I have to readjust." "No, I get it." Peter got back up and dusted himself off. "So, what's next on your to-do list?" "I'm getting married in a week," Peter smirked. "Right. I got my invitation. You mind if I bring my cousin? She's been going through some things ever since the car crash and I wanted to take her to a place to blow off steam." "Ah, I read up on that. If you hadn't been in the car with her, she would have lost her life. How does she feel now that she can Hulk up?" Peter flexed his muscles. "Oh, she's taking it, well, about as well as she can. The good news is that she can shift back between her normal body. Even I can't do that. A little jealous about that, to be honest." "You're green, but quit acting like you're ugly," Peter laughed. Bruce smirked and shook his head. "So, about that invite?" "Sure," Peter waved his hand. "I'll send it out later." "Thanks," Hulk smiled. Peter split up with him and went along his business like everything was normal. However, all the way across the galaxy, Thanos was speaking with a powerful entity. "Tell me, Why would I help you invade Earth? The booming voice of Galactus spoke up. We have common enemies. I hear the humans that cast you away live on the same planet as the person that I want dead. 1. If you want my aid, you must offer me something that would catch my attention. Galactus crossed his arms. I have the Herald's urn. It was made from the body of your herald. Galactus frowned and said, You try to bribe me with something I can easily give away? Yes, but this has sentimental you. It is the fallen ones. Thanos grinned. Galactus' demeanor changed as he used a telekinetic force to pull it towards his eyes. He looked at the tiny object compared to him and huffed. Very well. I shall aid you just once. But I want something else. What? Thanos frowned. I want to know who has angered the great Titan to the point of coming to me. He calls himself Spider-Man. On Earth, Spider-Man was swinging happily through the city when his phone alerted him to a text from Mary Jane. Taking the Cypher X gene from the lab. Love you. That's actually a really good power for her to choose. I'll add it to my set later. I wonder if this has anything to do with the presidents of South Africa whining about Chakare's sudden popularity. Peter continued on about his day, completely oblivious to those that were heading towards Earth. He was too focused on the wedding he would soon hold. It was 7 days away, and they almost had everything they needed to get tie the knot. The invitations were all sent out, and it had a bit over 70 people coming. The place was picked and the cathedral on Venus was built on a floating island. They hired Nightcrawler to be their priest, and he took back the ring for the ceremony and gave his to Mary Jane. Nothing can bring me down today, Peter shouted as a multi-dimensional portal suddenly opened up in front of him and he went flying through. Peter groaned as he rolled across the ground. He shook his head and said, I just had to open up my big mouth. He looked up and saw that he was in a forest. It was the middle of night, and there were webs everywhere. Hello. Peter looked around. He walked forward and inspected the web. Definitely one of my formulas. Where am I? Oh God, am I in the wild Spider-Man's world? Peter jumped into the air and started flying as he looked around to get his bearings. He started with his usual search bar method, but surprisingly, it didn't seem to have any information on it. Now this is weird. Maybe a test of some sorts. It's not just this world. None of gemstones are active. Webster, can you get me scans of the environment? Can do. Warning, powerful EMP is being emitted. Peter looked at the readings. Luckily that stuff won't work on a symbiote. Huh, it's worldwide? Oh, that's not good. I think I know where I am. It's the same world I peered in on a while back. The one with the broken celestial. What was it, the Unmaker? I should have studied this world more. After the honeymoon I'm visiting the powerless Earth and catching up on all the stuff I missed out on. Peter noticed that he was close to what looked like an outpost of some kind. He flew over and saw Daredevil, looking out from a watchtower while holding on to a Spider-Man webline. Ha! Neat, Peter said as he looked around. Pete. Daredevil turned around and tilted his head. Yo, Matt. Have you seen an older version of me running around? I need to talk to him. Oh. Are you Kane or Ben? No, I'm Peter. Just another Peter. Multiverse, I got it. Man, you picked a crappy universe to come to, the experienced hero said as he crossed his arms. You're telling me. Care to clue me in on where to find me? Yeah, you should be in the town center. Peter practically lives in the crow's nest. It's the tallest building in the area. Thanks, Matt. Good seeing you again. Spider-Man took off. I need to finish up here and head back home, hopefully before my wedding day. He landed in the middle of town and saw his older self eating outside with his family. Peter chuckled and landed behind him while Mary Jane Parker and May Parker went slack-jawed. Peter saw that there was beef stew and toast sitting in front of Spider-Dad and snagged it up while saying, MJ's cooking? Don't mind if I do. Wah! Older Peter turned around and gasped as he stood up and grabbed his counterpart's arms. Ben? Kane. Sorry, Pete. Peter removed his mask as he started eating. Just, ooh, hot. Another you from another universe. Give me back my food, TRN-891. Peter groaned as he tried to snag it back. Spider-Man grinned as he moved just a bit faster than his older self. Hold on, I'm starving. I just got done with a sparring with the Hulk. I need the calories. I don't care if you fought Galactus. Nobody steals my wife's cooking, not even me. Spider-Dad kept trying to snag back his dinner. Why are there two dads? May shouted with stars in her eyes. Aha, aha. Mary Jane stifled her laughing and gave her husband another bowl. She then looked at the visitor and asked with hope in her voice. So it's the multiverse again? Think this other you can help us out in any way? Earth is in a bit of predicament. Doubtful, TRN-891 grumbled as he sat back down and started eating. Hi, honey. Peter sat down at the table. Not your honey. Kind of is. I mean, I'm getting married next week, so. Oh, congrats. Spider-Dad said, guarded his bowl from his other self. Oh wow! The multiverse story you told me was real? May questioned as she jumped up and down with a purely excited expression. Honey, when have I ever lied to you? You told me Santa was real, May pouted. Peter laughed before MJ looked at him and asked, so, was it just Parker luck? Well, I got dragged out my universe to help this one for some reason. So, actually I can do a lot. I'm the strongest Spider-Man in the multiverse. Well, that I've come across. Really? The Spider family asked in unison. Yeah. MJ, you get spider powers. Peter, May, you get power UPS. Peter sent out a copy of his symbiote. Whoa. No. Peter shouted with a worried expression. Relax. It's not venom. It's a man-made symbiote. Peter crossed his arms and watched as they all relaxed a little. Holy crap. I feel incredible. MJ looked at her hands. Dad, I'm way stronger than normal. May chirped as she started hopping around. I never get tired of hearing that, Peter chuckled. I have to say, I wasn't expecting an artificial symbiote. TRN-891 calmed down. Danielle is going to freak out tomorrow when she sees my new suit. May cheered. Well, during these trying times, I suppose I shouldn't complain about more protection. Oh, I think you'll find out that it does more than protect. Webster, can you pull up a screen of all recorded abilities for the Parker family? Can do. The group sat back and gasped as they saw every power Peter had collected. Can I do all this stuff now? TRN-891, Peter asked. Yes, Pete. I'm going to call you Pete, Peter said as he stretched. Oh, Webster, use Elixir's X gene augmentation to permanently give MJ the spider gene, Peter said as the symbiote followed through. Once again MJ felt her strength surge. Oh, this is going to be fun. Why did you do that? I mean, I'm not complaining. Just curious, Pete asked. At this point it's just standard protocol, Peter chuckled. So, can we keep these? Ha ha ha. No. I'll be taking them back when I get done with whatever I've been sent here to accomplish. Beauty, I can tell you how to make one for yourself, Peter replied as he stood up and patted his belly. Food was great, MJ. Thank you, dear. Ugh, you did that on purpose, didn't you? MJ lifted a brow. TRN-891, Peter laughed. Well, at least you're a good version of me. So, I can be thankful for that. Care to clue me in when the world suddenly got shot back to the Dark Ages? Yeah, it's a long story, Spider-Dad sighed. A while back, something crazy happened and an EMP suddenly appeared from the center of our planet. It was hell for the first few years, but we managed to pull through and make this place. He told them about the people they lost and the struggles it took to unite most of humanity. However, with the electrical age gone, the monsters retook the land. Werewolves, vampires, and various villains ran amok. At the moment, most of the world was united against a common enemy. However, Apocalypse was now the head of the world's most oppressive civilization. They've even attacked surviving settlements several times to either enslave them or use them for some nefarious purpose. So, any idea what's causing the worldwide EMP? Sue said it was some kind of celestial, TRN-891, Peter replied. Damn well. I can think of a few things that can replace what you guys lost. Please tell me Tony is still kicking? Yeah, he's working on making a new power source with alchemy. Can you take me to him? Peter asked as he started stretching. Sure. TRN-891, Peter replied as he removed his mask and started eating again, after dinner. Pete, your face. MJ's eyes widened. Chapter 108. Issue 108. The Amazing Web Part 22. What about it? Spider-Dad tilted his head. You're younger. May and Mary shouted at the same time. Oh yeah. Forgot to mention, that suit can draw chi from the environment and slowly increase your internal supply. For me, that's not that much, but for you who hasn't trained in chi, it's probably like an ocean being added to a pond, and it has my healing factor. So I imagine every cell in your body must be rejuvenating at a rapid pace right now. Wait, I'm younger. Pete patted his face and noticed his wrinkles were gone. MJ touched her face and asked, how do I remove the ma? The symbiote responded to her mental commands and revealed that she looked 10 years younger. Ha ha ha. Wah. Mom got prettier. May cheered. Peter waited for them to finish dinner before his older counterpart put the mask on and got ready to leave. Can I come with? I want to see Uncle Tony again. May begged. You just want to show off your double dads, Spider-Dad chuckled as he messed May's hair. Still want to come. Please see. Let the kid come, not like there's going to be anything dangerous. I'll go too. I want to take this thing out for a test drive. It's been a while since I had your power set. MJ suited up in a copy of Peter's classic design. Fine, a Spider family outing it is, Pete sighed as he jumped off the building. They quickly made their way across the small outpost while May asked Peter a bunch of questions. So, how old are you? What's different in your world? How'd you get the cool suit? Why are you so strong? What's Mom like in your world? Am I there too? Do you still have electricity? How come the web shooters are so different? Pete whipped by and let out a cheerful laugh before saying, I can't even begin to tell you what downgrading to this alchemy/steam engine tech did to my web shooting skills. Man, this feels good. I can imagine. Peter hopped off a watchtower that led to a large cave that had buildings carved into a stone hillside. Hey, Pete, remember Spider Island? MJ hopped over him. How could I forget? Everyone was Spider-Man for a day. And you're still in top form, babe. Pete replied. Peter chuckled before speeding up a bit. Hey, you didn't answer my questions. May tried to catch up. Peter landed behind Pete and looked at the large cave entrance next to a house carved out of stone. Of course, he's still paranoid. Everyone would be searching the house, yet he hides his lab in a cave. Pete chuckled. Yeah, that's Tony. Sounds like yours is pretty similar to ours. You'd be surprised how many Tonys keep their personas in the multiverse. It's actually rare to find one that acts outside his usual self. Though there are a few. There's a dumb Tony, evil Tony, Tony that marries a female Captain America, and even a gender swap universe. Okay, the second to last one you have to get pictures of, MJ said. She landed next to them. You sure you want to do that, MJ? The multiverse literally represents infinite possibilities. Once you open that door, there's no closing it, and I know just how Tony gets his revenge for stuff like this. Oh, he'd totally invent multiversal travel just to pay you back tenfold, Pete added. Never mind, MJ raised her hands in defeat. Why won't you answer me? May pouted. Peter rubbed her head before saying, Webster, PG setting, and answer the kids' questions. Understood, Webster replied as he began both telling and showing video clips through the lenses. Neat function, MJ chuckled. All right, let's go visit that cave-dwelling hermit. Hopefully, I can help out where I can, maybe even leave you guys better off. Peter started to head inside. You think he can help you get home? Pete asked. I can leave any time I want. Unlike you, I actually took up Dr. Strange's offer to learn magic. However, I was sent here for a reason, and to uncover that reason, I need information. Right, so why were you sent here? Peter rubbed his chin. It wasn't his first multiversal adventure, and they always seemed to have a purpose of some kind that needed to be met before he could go home. He then thought of his gemstones. If this is some kind of test, it couldn't be as simple as slaying the Celestial and helping a world. It's always a catch or some lesson for me to learn. As they drew closer to Tony's location, the sound of hammering could be heard getting louder and louder. When Peter saw light, he stepped into the cave and smirked as he noticed books, alchemy tables with sloppily drawn circles, various pieces of steam-powered equipment, and some very bulky Iron Man suits. Yo! Tony! Pete shouted out. The sound of clanging drowned out his announcement, causing him to blush while his wife and child giggled. Pete groaned as he picked up a rock and tossed at the back of his head. Ow! Who, Pete? What's with the new suit? Tony tilted his head as he saw that the steam generator that they built wasn't on it. He then noticed the others. May's suit looked normal, but he was completely baffled by Mary Jane wearing the classic design suit. When he saw Peter standing next to the other Peter, he went wide-eyed and asked, Sue, Ben's alive? Ugh. Hey, multiverse Peter Parker at your service. Oh, holy crap. Tony suddenly grinned while he happily walked over to inspect the hero and the suit he was wearing. Tony, what's up with steampunk tech? Peter said as his eyes were drawn to the Iron Man suits. Dark ages. Worlds covered in a bubble of electromagnetic waves. Electricity is a bit of a tall order right now. Peter lifted his brow. Why don't you just build a Faraday cage? We can't exactly mine like we used to. Not exactly safe out there these days. Tony, there's a whole bunch of destroyed cities full of aluminum copper you could harvest. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. It's like we don't have enemy factions hunting us down, Tony replied with a bland expression before he sighed. It's why I'm trying to learn alchemy. If I can just make the elements I need, then we can discuss a Faraday cage. Unless you have the ma. Peter pulled out his bag of holding and smirked as he dumped out several large boulders of copper ore. Oh, and your alchemy circles suck. You know that there are books of this stuff in Camartage, don't you? Peter used magic to carve out a proper circle and transformed the entire cave. All along the stone surface a mesh cage formed before a pair of doors formed at the entrance. It was then coated in aluminum and layered so that the EMP couldn't get through the cage. Lastly, it was covered up by stone tiles while the entire mountain transformed into various rooms and neatly designed corridors. They all gasped at how organized and modernized the cave looked after he finished. Dad? Can you do that? May's eyes sparkled. No. Holy sure. MJ slapped Tony in the back of the head before he could get the curse out. MJ, what the heck? That hurt like hell. Oops, sorry. I don't know my own strength anymore thanks to other Peter giving me spider powers. Pete? Who is this guy? Tony rubbed the back of his head. Once again, I'm Peter Parker from another universe. I also happen to be a sorcerer and a grandmaster alchemist, Peter flexed. You're kidding, right? Flexing both body and mouth. Ha ha ha. I can't with this guy. Is every Peter like you? Tony looked to his Spider-Man. What can I say? Not every Peter is as lucky as us. Peter swayed his head side to side while shrugging his shoulders. I wouldn't call Parker lucky, Pete groaned. Dude, you have great luck. You just suck at grasping opportunities that they present. Peter slapped his older self on the back. Oh, man. I have a working Faraday cage. Tony cheered as he threw his hands up. His eyes then drifted to Peter. You wouldn't happen to have any more of that copper, would you? Tony, I was prepared to make planets out of some of these materials. I thought it'd be cool to make an entire solar system with all the elements in the periodic table. So, I'm sure I have enough for what you have in mind. However, we should get your alchemy up to par. Peter didn't know what the test was. However, he figured he should try a variety of things to see if they paid off. For now, he thought that he might have to teach them and help them get to the good ending without relying on the gemstones. Peter rummaged through his bag before pulling out a stack of books. And people diss me for liking paper. Where's your tablets and Kindle now? These are. Pete opened one up. Copies of books I got from Kamar Taj combined with my notes and the understanding of alchemy and magic I got from other universes. Seriously, what happened to Strange? I thought he'd be able to help more than me right now. Tony and Pete showed a grim expression. Oh. He's dead, isn't he? What happened to Kamar Taj? The new Sorcerer Supreme left the planet. Took the whole damn place. Tony grunted. They're not supposed to do that. No, but it sure didn't stop them from abandoning us all. Pete crossed his arms. Well, maybe I'm here to start setting things straight. But first, you guys probably haven't seen stuff like this in a long time. Peter rummaged through his bag again and started pulling out a bunch of machines and produce. First was a fridge full of food, drinks, and pre-made meals. The next things to come out were a coffee table, espresso machine, a television with a bunch of movies and shows recorded on them, a HAM radio, and liquor cabinet. Tony felt like crying as he saw the modern appliances working. He practically assaulted the liquor cabinet while hugging it. What on earth don't you have in that thing? Very little. I prepared for a lot. In the many universes we live in, a lot can go wrong. I'm basically Batman but better. Who is Batman? May asked as Peter smirked and handed over some of his favorite issues. From one nerdy father to his other universe daughter, you're going to love this guy. No way, Pete mumbled as he saw the DC comics. Is that? MJ chuckled before finishing her husband's sentence. Yep, that your guilty pleasure. It's been a while since I've seen a Batman comic. May looked at the drawings and smiled as she took a seat started reading. Tony's eyes drifted to Peter snagging something out of his bag again. Oh hey, this is for powering the environment. It's an Arc King reactor. My Tony and MJ helped me make it. Tony's eyes sparked as he started inspecting it. This is... Dude, you're the best. Want to know something cool? You see that gem on the other side of the generator? Tony nodded his head. That's a philosopher's stone. And I plan on teaching you how to make it. It should completely replace fuel sources, and since this is our EMP-resistant model, it has its own built-in Faraday cage. I see. We'll have to get landlines up and running, but as long as everything is shielded properly, we can rebuild society. Tony cheered as he started hugging everyone. Pepper, where are you? He ran off eager to show his wife. Honey, you have to see this. You're not going to believe it. Didn't we come here for information? Pete asked. Peter slapped his forehead. Sorry, I got carried away. Well, at least we get something out of this. MJ eyed the coffee machines and beans. Well, we might as speak over coffee and tea, Peter joked as he started up his favorite brew. They all sat at the table and couch he pulled out and waited for Tony to come back with Pepper. When the Starks returned, they saw how luxurious the cave had become. Yo! This is my lab, not a lounge. Relax, I made a bunch of other rooms to move your stuff to, Peter joked as he handed him coffee that was roasted in Scotch barrels. Tony sniffed a few times and smiled as he took a drink. Pwah, that's so damn good. Pepper was still rather speechless as she looked around all the changes. There was a couch, large coffee table, bean bags, and a bunch of modern amenities that she hadn't seen in years. For you, Peter handed her a cup. Pepper took the coffee and smelled before taking a sip. A teardrop fell from her eyes as she smiled. Oh wow, I can't believe how long it's been since I've had coffee this good. Well, come on, let's brainstorm. I have a lot to teach you guys, so we'll probably be up all night. Peter sat back down. Pepper looked between the two Peters when MJ gave her friend a hug and said, "Come on, we have so much to tell you." And so, the group of heroes sat and started discussing plans to teach people alchemy and magic. Peter laid out various methods and offered up all that he had learned from Kamartaj. They chatted well into the night and decided on making a school for Peter to start teaching them. However, Peter had a better idea. By splitting Webster into a few hundred copies, he could lend him the boosts from his extra powers to speed up the learning process. It was a good plan, but Tony still insisted on making a school for when Peter leaves with the symbiote. They would need a place to pass down the knowledge to future generations. Okay, so we have a plan. Peter smacked his hands together. Build a school, teach everyone magic and alchemy, rebuild society. How hard can it be? Pete added. Well, for now, we study the material I brought. I have 6 days now, 6 days to fix this broken world. God, I hope MJ doesn't kill me when I get back. Chapter 109. Issue 109. The Amazing Web Part 23. MJ was going to kill Peter Parker. She was supposed to meet her at a flower shop to pick out their bouquet. I swear. Why isn't he picking up my call? Well then, if you won't answer, Spiderling. Contact Peter. Connecting to the Great Web, the symbiote replied as her new X-gene ability allowed her to perfectly attune to the web of life and destiny. He's not in our universe? Okay, maybe it's not his fault. Connection formed. Communication channels open. Spiderling interrupted her train of thought. Peter Benjamin Parker. On Earth TRN 891, Peter, who was in the middle of helping Tony design the new town borders and the massive Faraday cage, suddenly jumped. Oh no, she called me by my full name. She never calls me by my full name unless I did something wrong, he thought before gulping. Hey babe. Peter saw them all giving confused looks. He then held up his finger and pressed a button on his wrist. The image of MJ tapped her foot with arms crossed and an angry expression. Oh, I recognize that look. You're in trouble, Pete teased. Sweetheart. So the funniest thing happened. I was about to go on patrol when this portal just swallowed me up. And you couldn't tell me why? I suppose it doesn't have anything to do with helping me pick out the flowers? Right. Peter's eyes darted to the side and coughed. Honey, I would never. TRN 891. MJ started laughing as she saw her Peter sweating as well. Had to stop a train, huh? Pete coughed into his hand. Well look MJ, it's another you. Busted. May chirped. Ahem. I thought the roses were good? Peter shrugged his shoulders. He could appreciate the beauty of nature, but flowers were just flowers to him. Really, what color? The red ones, something that matches your beauty and your hair color. Peter looked away. Glib-tongued bastard. Both Mary Janes blushed. I'm a steal that one, Pete chuckled. Can't steal from yourself, Peter laughed. So, where are you anyways? I'm in a world where a massive EMP covering the whole planet. Trying to teach these guys and help them out. I also think it's a test from Merlin since my stones aren't working, but I can't be sure yet. A week before our wedding? Merlin sure knows how to piss me off. Mom said a bad word, May chuckled. MJ looked at soon-to-be husband and sighed. After I get done with the flowers and cake, I'll join you. Cool, Peter smiled. Oh, you're not getting out of this one. We still have to pick decorations and utensils. MJ closed the call while the other heroes snorted and laughed at Peter. Nice try, MJ smirked. I wasn't trying anything. Peter replied. Sura bette chocolate. Hey. Peter. Does this look good for a Faraday dome? Tony said while holding out a design that had the town that they were currently in drawn on it. We can bury the floor with dirt, but the alchemy circle should go here, here, and here. Tony made some adjustments when Peter suddenly turned towards the entrance. You expecting company? Tony looked up to see a vampire approaching them. Of course, Peter wouldn't allow his new friends to be hurt, so he suddenly ignited the creature's body with fire. His cosmic flames turned the undead creature into ash as they all saw someone walk in behind him. Steve. Tony spoke up. Heya, Stark. Like what you've done with the place. Though, you should probably get better doors. The heck? Pete spoke up as his family suddenly saw a few alerts pop up on Webster's display screen. Is this a real-time scan? May pondered as she stood in front of her mother to defend her. MJ pulled her daughter back and whispered. No need, I can protect myself just fine now, honey. What are you guys talking about? Pepper spoke up. Is everything okay? Steve asked. Nice try. Peter smirked as he walked over and suddenly engulfed Steve with a copy of his symbiote. Yo! What are you doing? Tony shouted. Peter held up his finger as the symbiote pulled back and revealed that it was Mystique and not Captain America.
The hell?
Tony gasped.
How'd you know?
Tony asked. Symbiote genetic scanner, Peter replied as the blue-skinned woman fell on the ground. She's got Kilgrave's pheromones on her too.
So, I went ahead and purged them from her body.
Good work. Peter slapped his hand on the shoulder of his younger self. So, anyone want to tell me if she's on our side? I don't know much about this universe. Mystique and many of the members of the Brotherhood went missing years ago, Tony said as he checked on her condition. After the fall, she and Eric helped out a lot. To think Kilgrave got her. Pete sighed. Okay then, let's wake her up. Peter used some smelling salts to snap the mutant awake.
Wah, ha, Eric.
Oh god, that smell. Raven grabbed her nose as his eyes flickered open. Welcome back, Mystique. Tony held his hand out.
Tony, my head.
Son of a bitch. When I get my hands on Kilgrave. Raven fumed as she forced herself back up on her feet.
Oh no, this isn't good.
We just rescued you from being mind-controlled. What's not good about that? Tony questioned. It's not good because Apocalypse and Dracula are out there waiting for me to deliver Tony to them.
Why?
Pepper asked with a worried expression. Because he needs the world's smartest people working for him. He's trying to use that thing in the middle of the earth to make himself stronger. However, if he wakes it, the whole earth and everyone on it will. Raven explained what she had been forced to do for the past 3 years. She helped the villain develop a nation, captured Magneto, kidnapped others and let them be controlled by Kilgrave, and committed horrible crimes against humanity in Apocalypse's name.
Apocalypse, huh?
Lead the way. Peter transformed into Tony and even had the prosthetic leg Iron Man had. Oh yeah, before I forget, here you go. He threw out a copy of Webster for Tony and Pepper before looking back at Raven. Take me to him. I'll take care of the rest. Tony was shocked as he had 20 years knocked off his appearance and regenerated his leg in a matter of second. I'm keeping this. Tony smirked as he looked at the suit and felt all that power coursing through him. No, you're not, Peter replied while shaking his head. Come on, just let us keep it. Think of it like a favor from yourself, Pete pleaded. I'll tell you what, when this whole thing is over with, I'll teach you how to make your own, Peter relented. Wait. I might still be woozy from the mind control, but are there 2 Peters in the room? Mystique shook her head. We'll talk about that later. Just know that I can deal with Apocalypse. You just have to play the part so that he lets his guard down. Once he takes me to Kilgrave, I end this nightmare for you. Taking on Apocalypse alone isn't a smart move, Raven warned. I have my methods, Peter said as he started walking towards the entrance of the lab. Do you need our help? Pete spoke up.
Nah, I got this.
Now, let's go save Eric. Raven nodded her and turned back into Steve before following after. They walked out like nothing was wrong and moved to a clearing a few dozen feet away from the encampment. Mystique frowned as she saw that no one was there to meet her, and the ambush of vampires were nowhere to be seen either. He was supposed to be here, Raven frowned as she looked around. Did he find out?
Maybe he was observing you somehow. Then why did he flee?
Apocalypse is a cautious man. He probably knows enough about this universe as Peter, but he knows jack shit about me.
What should we do?
Raven questioned. Can you tell me where his base of operations is located at? Peter asked. I can, but his capital is filled with powerful mutants and heroes that he has been collecting over the years. We'll need help. All right, that puts a wrench in my plans. Come on, let's head back to the others. I'm not dumb enough to start a fight against a prepared Apocalypse without preparing a bit for myself. He known for being quite the strategist, but I like to plot with the intention of overkill. The 2 rejoined with the others. When Tony saw them, he walked over and said, What happened? He ran. Probably fortifying his defenses as we speak, Peter informed. What are we up against? Pete asked. He has several powerful mutants, some of the brightest minds on the planet, Dr. Octavius, Reed Richards, Hank McCoy, Riri Williams. It is not wise to go in without a plan. We have to rescue them, Pete spoke up. We're all in agreement there, MJ added. Well, if we need an army, then we should visit the King of Africa, Chala, Tony spoke up.
Well then, what are we waiting for?
Peter said as he opened a portal. Huh? Wasn't Wakanda supposed to be here? We moved the capital after our last bout with Apocalypse, Tony informed.
Where?
Peter lifted a brow. I don't recall. Don't give me that look. It's part of the protection protocol. The only way we get there is by going across the sea, Tony informed. Look, we need time to gather up our forces here. I know plenty of people that'll help us, Pete grinned. Yeah, but most of them are sleeping or exhausted from defending. We should wait until tomorrow, MJ suggested. It is almost 2 in the morning, Tony replied. All right, we'll do things your way, Peter sighed as he started walking off.
Where are you going now?
May asked. I'm going to set up the Faraday cage around the town. I'll head to sleep when I finish. With that said, Peter left and went to the center of town and started planting materials. Copper, aluminum, silver for vampires and werewolves, and several dozen alchemy circles later, Peter placed his hand on the ground and triggered the alchemical process. Buildings were repaired while the materials were coated with weatherproofing materials, and in a flash of light, the entire place changed to look like a caged city with thick walls surrounding it. It was almost 4 in the morning when Peter put the finishing touches on the place. He added parks for the kids, left plenty of nature in between buildings, had fully stocked houses people could live in, and reinforced all the walls with various magical defenses that were effective against other creatures that might approach the new city. The cage was miles above the city, so it didn't really feel that crowded. The hero looked over the city he built in hours and smiled. I bet they'll lose their minds. A couple of people on watch duty noticed him and stared at him through most of the night. They were in complete awe as they watched buildings changed, built, or completely rearranged without waking up a single person. But most of all, was the fact that there was electricity again. Holy crap! Is that the hum of electrical wires? Daredevil asked. Dude, it looks a little like home. Just more green. I like it, Foggy replied. Peter smirked at their response and jumped up to the perch and clung to the side of it before saying, That's not all I can do. Reaching into his bag, he bought out a couple of beers and passed them over. Foggy, is this what I think it is? Oh, sweet nectar. Foggy popped the cap and started drinking. Have a good night you too. Peter hopped off. Since when can Spiderman do that? Who cares? Daredevil took a few swigs. Man, I missed this taste. Peter jumped around the city until he landed on the new house he made for the Parkers and waited. When he heard May squeal in excitement, the hero from another universe smirked. What are you? Pete's voice stopped. Huh. Oh my, he really went all out, didn't he? MJ's voice chirped as she looked around the place. Honey, look out the window. Pete pointed ahead. He finished all of that in one night? MJ looked surprised. So cool. Hey Dad, let's explore. May shouted as she opened the window and jumped out. I'm coming with. MJ followed behind. I guess I should check with the others and let them know we're heading to Africa, Pete sighed as he got ready to leave. I guess that means I'll check in on Tony, Peter called out, spooking his older self. When'd you get there? A bit before our daughter screamed. You go inform your allies, and I'll get to work on preparing for the trip. Peter webbed off. Chapter 110. Issue 110. The Amazing Web Part 24. The spider hero headed towards the cave and met up with Tony. He was in the middle of studying the alchemical recipes and methods Peter left him, and it took the hero snapping his fingers in front of his face to get his attention. Yo, time to go. Tony looked over and laughed. Has it been a full night already? Yeah, the symbiote has my healing factor, so you probably don't even feel tired. All right, let's go meet with the king, Tony said as he started walking beside him. Peter opened a portal to the town and jumped through before Tony joined him. As they stuck to the wall, Iron Man couldn't help but laugh. These powers rock. I feel like I could take on the world. We're wasting time. Peter opened a communication line to the other symbiotes. How are you guys doing? We informed everyone that wants to come with, but can it wait until my daughter finishes her tea party? Pete spoke up. Fine. I suppose I can wait, Peter groaned. To be honest, he just wanted to head home and stay with MJ so they can finish prepping for their wedding. Johnny. Shush. They're kids. They don't need to know about Galactus. Peter hung up the call and leaned against the railings of a rooftop. So, got some time to kill. Want to talk about alchemy? Tony lifted a brow. I'll do my best to teach you what I know, Peter replied. The two chatted about it for almost an hour before Pete told him that they were ready. He met up with the group and saw the group that was going with him, Jessica and Luke Cage, Daredevil, X-23, Sue Richards, Johnny Storm, Blade, Tony and Pepper Stark, and the Spider Heroes. Right, well, I'm sure Pete's informed you about my arrival to this universe. To show you just why we're so confident about this mission, I've decided to give you all a copy of my symbiote. Once they were cloaked in Webster's copies, Peter smiled at their responses. They were all excited and amazed by the powers they now had. Holy crap, are all these options to use different powers? Sue spoke up. Yeah, it takes time to learn how to use them, so you can rely on Webster to act in your place. He's a dependable and competent partner, so feel free to rely on him for advice. Magnetism, superkinetic physical enhancement, Sue's powers, Johnny's powers, chi infusion, hyper-regeneration, Electro's powers, storms, Charles, avalanche, geokinesis, quicksilver, cryokinesis. How many powers does this thing have? Laura Kinney shouted in surprise. A lot, that's why I told you to rely on Webster, Peter chuckled before stating his plan. I'll give everyone that joins us on the rescue mission a copy of Webster. We'll show up at his front door with an OP team and wreck his whole operation. With this much power, it just might be possible, Mystique called out as she flexed a few times.
Is Richard really there?
Sue asked.
Raven nodded her head. I give you my word.
Well, we have to head to Africa, so we should meet up with Aurora, Laura informed as they made their way towards the gate.
Everyone ready?
Pete asked. They all nodded their heads and left on foot. Seeing as how it would take a while to reach their destination, Peter pulled out a vehicle powered by a philosopher's stone.
Thanks to the ride, they made it to a certain location near the bay and waited for a helicarrier that had been retrofitted into a boat.
When it stopped, a group of familiar people all got off and showed a surprised expression. Why is everyone wearing spider-themed outfits? Nightcrawler spoke up. This symbiote refuses to completely listen to us. Says the webs are part of his identity, Laura informed as she showed the blend of her outfit and a spider hero outfit.
Kurt.
Peter smirked as he patted his back.
Peter and Peter?
The X-Man looked confused. You're friends with your X-Men too? Pete asked. Sure am. Kurt here is marrying me and MJ. Got a whole party ready to go. So I'm hoping we can get this done before 7 days have passed. Ah, so it's not time travel, so it's the multiverse, right?
Kurt smiled. I'm honored to be the one to marry you. Give the other me a hello in my stead. Will you?
Can do. Hey, it's Aurora, Colossus, Fury, Multiple Man, and a whole bunch of familiar face.
Wah. Quite the lineup you got running this boat.
Great, just what I needed, 2 of you morons, Fury sighed. To save you all some time, Webster, do your thing. Dozens of copies fell off Peter and covered every hero on board in an instant. Along with their newfound powers, Webster shared the memories of Raven's confession and their plan.
Well, I'll be damned. We can finally put an end to that bastard's plans.
Fury grinned as he enjoyed the feeling of his energy returning. Peter smirked as he boarded the ship and opened a portal to the coast of Africa.
This should be enough help, right?
Can you help the refugees? Aurora asked. Peter opened another portal to the base near New York and said, Go on then, there are heroes there that will aid you guys and help you settle in. They looked at each other and grinned. Cheers erupted from the civilians before they all passed through the portal and saw how grand the new city looked. They all then set up the ship and watched a storm blew powerful winds to push the sails. Once they passed through the portal, Peter looked around and watched as a portion of them got off. He joined them and had to be blindfolded as they rode the vibranium-powered vehicle to the new capital of Wakanda. When they were close enough, they were able to see a massive city that was bustling with all sorts of people. Glad to see that the whole world hasn't been reset, Peter smirked. And I'm sure that you'll be able to bring it all back for us, Kurt smiled as he looked around. No, this time will be even better. We can rebuild with new tech and work in harmony with nature rather than against it, Aurora added. Yeah, I guess it will. If I can't get rid of that EMP, we'll have to rely on magic and alchemy to help you get off this rock someday, Peter replied. They stopped at a large castle and went inside to see Doom, Chala, and Oyok waiting for them. Mommy! The daughter of Chala and Aurora came running. Chimera, you're up early. You came early.
I would have met you if you had given me word of your arrival.
We had some help. Aurora looked at Peter. Doom? Well, I don't know whether to be happy that you're on our side or kill you so that you don't cause future problems. Doom lifted his brow behind his mask and said, You're smarter than our Spider-Man. However, I no longer wish for world domination. I am a changed man. Are you? Peter swayed side to side as he looked him up and down. Scanning his thoughts, Peter found himself surprised to learn that Victor was indeed telling the truth. Huh. Why are there 2 Spider-Men? Chala asked, whispering to his wife. Multiverse, Aurora replied while snuggling with her daughter. I see. So what brings you to our universe? The king stared at him with interest. I'll just speed things up. Peter shot out more copies and shared the events with everyone. None was more happy to receive the symbiote than Victor. It augmented his body and returned his physical appearance with Elixir's ability to manipulate organic material. He could feel the stiffness of his body becoming lax as he gave Spider-Man a thankful nod as he said, This information is useful. With him on our side, it will be our best chance at taking down Apocalypse. I see. Aurora, will you need me for this? No, you have a kingdom to look after, love. We just need some allies to take with us. All right, let's go, Peter said as he opened another portal. Storm placed her hand over Peter's shoulder and shook her head. Dear, could you let us take the ship? We need time to learn how to use our new powers. If we go in now, we might mess things up. Peter saw the logic in her argument and agreed. All right. Nothing wrong with a break. I'll teach you guys and show you the webs. Don't you mean ropes? Chala asked. No, I really don't, Peter chuckled. With that out of the way, they all left with some Wakandan forces and boarded the helicarrier. As they took off towards Europe, Peter went around teaching the heroes everything they needed to know in order to improve as quickly as they could. He shared experiences with his telepathic abilities and watched over them as they put it into real-life practice. Eventually, night fell, and they all prepared to get some rest for the big event tomorrow. Aurora wanted to keep going, but everyone told her to relax. After all, they still needed time to adapt to the symbiote's amazing powers. If she spent all her time pushing the ship, then she wouldn't be able to get any practice in. While they all worked or slept, Peter kept an eye out on the crow's nest and spotted a glowing ship in the distance. May! The voices of Pete and MJ echoed out. Danielle! Luke and Jessica were the next to shout.
Ah, I see they've found our little stowaways, Peter chuckled.
I'm sorry. We wanted to come with you, but we knew you wouldn't say yes. Danielle pouted.
We hid, and we'd only were planning on coming out if we were needed, but my senses. Peter noticed the ship getting closer. Huh?
Are those? He opened a portal over and saw around a dozen ghost riders and read their thoughts. So they're just basic demons? Pulling out his glaive, Peter rushed forward and slayed the pirates with ease. Each cleave of his Vita glaive tore through their existence and killed both the demons and their hosts. Score!
There's a bunch of hell-enchanted metals I can play with. Peter stored everything before heading back to the helicarrier.
What was that about? Fury asked as he was the first to spot him returning. Just killed some pirates, Peter replied as if that was completely normal. Huh, it just stopped. May looked at Peter in fury. Oh, you two are so grounded when we get back, Jessica sighed. For a month, MJ added. Haha, I hope my kid won't be this bad. I'm the kind that'd cave to my kid's demands, Peter chuckled. You shouldn't do that so often.
They'll never learn if you spoil them, Fury replied as he crossed his arms.
Don't get me wrong. If I think that they're doing something bad or causing trouble, I'd be the first to scold them. But when it comes to this stuff, it feels rather innocent. So Fury, anyone in your life? I had a thing with Oyok a while back, but work kept us busy. It's not so easy getting around with modern tech. We broke up a while back, Fury explained. Huh. Let's see if we can't change that. Spider-Cupid is on the job, Peter chuckled as he jumped down from the crow's nest and grabbed his older self by the shoulder. Come on, we're going to fix this rust bucket up. We are? Wait, I still have to scold. Pete was interrupted before he could finish his sentence. Noir, no faux. She can stay on the ship until we get to Europe.
You can decide to punish her later.
With his other self helping, Peter and Pete set up a bunch of alchemical circles all around the helicarrier. Thanks to Webster guiding him, Pete was slowly becoming more and more proficient with alchemy. Once they finished, Peter brought a bunch of materials and activated the circles. The ship glowed before it was completely rebuilt. It now sported a Faraday cage that covered every last inch of the helicarrier's surface. The engine was replaced with an Arc King reactor, all the dirt and rust was removed, and the sails folded inside a metal tube, just in case they wanted to go old school. Everyone gasped at the sudden change while Fury looked at him and asked, Is it operable? Oh yeah, just remember to shut off the equipment and keep the Faraday closed to the outside world before you exit. There are 2 gates for the boarding and disembarking procedures, meaning one gate must always be closed. I added shielding on all the machines, but there's no guarantee a break or tear could happen down the line. I'll keep that in mind, Fury said as he made his way to the bridge. Peter and several others joined him and entered to see it at its usual standard appearance. The only difference was a manual steering wheel that looked like it belonged on a boat. Just pull to lift, push to descend, Peter informed before he moved to turn the engine on. Tony went to navigation and took a seat while a few of Fury's men filled up the remaining stations. Much to his liking, the helicarrier fan blades started running and the ship started to lift into the air. Fury grinned and said, Damn, feels good to be back. They started flying towards Europe while Webster continued to teach the heroes through experiences and memories Spider-Man shared. While they flew, Peter sat across from his older self and asked, Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, with this suit, what's there to worry about? Pete replied. A lot actually. The reason why I don't do this with others is because a pure download of my memories has a chance to meld them or even overwrite certain parts of their personalities. It's dangerous. Well, we're the same person besides. I'm only taking your experience with alchemy and magic, Pete said while crossing his arms. I spent almost a full year to master alchemy, and my magic still has a lot of room to grow. But if this what you want, Webster, hit M with everything. The symbiote hit Pete with the full course of studies and all his experiences when he was studying alchemy and magic. His mouth foamed a little as he grit his teeth and his eyes rolled back while his head felt like I was going to explode. My healing factor will keep you safe, but it won't feel pleasant, Peter informed as his older self fell on his back and screamed in pain. I warned you. Hey, I just had an idea. What if I get MJ to make a device that can download information like the device in the Matrix, just without the whole hole in their neck? Sounds good to me. Pete replied as he tried to stand up. It was clear that he was a little woozy, but he was recovering fast enough to realize just how dangerous a full download was. He was having issues sorting his memories from his younger counterparts, and needed time to digest all the information that was directly seared into his psyche.
Feeling better?
Yeah, just a little strange. It's like I just lived part of your life, Pete sighed as he tried to open a portal, and much to his surprise, he had succeeded. This is your captain speaking, Fury's voice came over the intercom. Europe is within sight.
Docking procedures are underway.
The helicarrier started to descend and slowly touched water before it made a splash. There were cheers and the sound of people clapping after the first successful flight in 7 years. Peter made his way towards the entrance and was met with none other than Deadpool.
Holy shit! You made that thing fly again.
Wade shouted as he looked at all the heroes wearing spider-themed versions of their original outfits. Oh, where's my suit? It's not fair that you get to cosplay as my favorite hero but I don't. Hey Wade, Pete spoke up.
Bro, seriously, what's going on?
Deadpool walked over and looked at Peter's suit. Peter smirked as he threw a copy of the suit on Deadpool and made him jump in surprise.
Oh mama! This is the good stuff.
Deadpool cheered as he realized what the symbiote was doing to him. Cured your cancer again, Peter smirked as he gave him the details of their mission. So we're finally putting that monster down for good. About time. Well, come on, let's get this party started.
Follow me, tourist.
Wade shouted as he led them to a double-decker tour bus with his face and the words Wade was board written on the side. Welcome to the Dead Mobile. HAAA. I'll get to work on the repairs. I'll help, Pete added as the two Spider-Men started drawing alchemy circles on it. When they finished, Peter laid down some materials and transformed the tour bus into a tank/mobile home.
Oh, you made it all spiffy.
Wade circled the vehicle a couple of times. Devil Dinosaur sat on top of it while everyone else boarded the ride. They drove for the rest of the day and ended it by setting up camp a few dozen miles away from any of the main roads. May sat with her parents by the fire while Peter and a few others kept an eye on their surroundings. Blade looked at Peter and said, "Something watching us."
You felt it too, huh?
Peter replied as he jumped from a tree branch and moved with the Dark Avenger until they spotted their target. Venom and Carnage fused into a single being? Well, luckily for us, I can take care of this. Peter threw out a sonic blast that caused the symbiote to scream in pain. However, the moment it left its host to get away from the source, Peter leapt into action.
With a single thrust of the Vitaglaive, he stabbed into the fused symbiote and used his magic to turn it into an anti-symbiote.
As its colors turned white, black and blue, Peter smirked and said, "Huh? It actually worked. Cool. Guess I'll have a pretty good weapon should I ever encounter someone like Null." Peter. The voice of a very groggy Miles Morales spoke up. "Well, I'll be back to your new host." Peter slung the anti-symbiote onto Miles.
No.
You done freaking out? Peter smirked. Ha! There's no voice? In fact, I feel like I'm in full control, Miles gasped in astonishment. Venom and Carnage are dead. All that's left is the antibodies.
You've heard of anti-venom before, right?
Is that what you did?
So, I'm finally free.
Yeah, no more voices or mind control. How do you feel? Peter asked as he ran scans on the symbiote.
I feel good.
Great. Then can you clue us in on what's happening? Why were you hunting us? Blade sheathed his sword. Apocalypse. He's planning on destroying this world. He sent me here to capture Tony Stark. Come on, we can continue the discussion after we get back to camp.
Blade sniffed the air around him and growled. Vampires.
I got this. Peter flew up into the sky and used his targeting system to lock on to every vampire in the area. Then, with his cosmic fires, he shot out small balls of plasma that tore through them all.
Screams of pain and explosions of vampire dust echoed out in the hundreds before he landed and said, "Done."
Wait, since when could Peter do all that? Not your Peter, Blade informed. I guess we both have some explaining to do, Miles replied as he started walking back to the campsite. Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 111. Issue 111. The Amazing Web Part 25. When they stepped back into the view of the campfire, Peter noticed everyone's surprised reaction at the return of one of their fellow heroes. Miles. Pete jumped over and hugged him. Hey, Pete. Miles smiled and hugged back. Holy crap, you're alive? Laura shouted as she ran over and hugged him as well. A few other friends crowded him and started welcoming him back. May looked up with a curious expression. Daddy? Who's this? Miles smiled at the little red head and picked her up. You probably don't remember me because you were a toddler, but I'm a good friend of your parents. You used to call me Uncle Miles. He's like a little brother to me, Pete chuckled. Cool. Hey, Danielle. I have 2 dads and an uncle now. This just keeps getting better. Luke chuckled. Been a while. Glad to see you're still kicking. You too, big man, Miles replied while they pounded their fists together. Come on, sit down. Tell us what you've been up to all this time. MJ pulled him over towards the fire and sat on a long log. We have s'mores. Wade cheered. They all waited for them to calm down when Miles started to explain. Venom and I found each other after the world went dark. In those early days, we kept each other alive, and for a while, it worked well. However, when Carnage got the jump on us and merged with me, I lost myself. The voices. Their power was just too much to take. Why would the symbiotes work for Apocalypse? Doom asked as he crossed his arms. They worked for him because he told them what no one else knows, because of what he promised them, because of what he plans to do. He's looking for a way to shut down the EMP. That's why he kidnapped all those scientists. There's going to be a moment when the power comes back on, and he promised the symbiotes a ship to get off planet when it happens. Miles went on to explain what exactly happened. He told them about the corrupt celestial that was sitting in the core of the planet. This much a few already knew thanks to Sue explaining what happened. However, they now knew that the EMP was keeping that celestial shut off. If it was stopped and it woke back up, the Unmaker would swallow the entire Earth. It was designed to eat black holes and stop entropy, but after countless years of soaking in all that dark energy, it became twisted in its mission. It began eating entire solar systems and was eventually stopped by the Living Tribunal. Since the cosmic being could not destroy the celestial, he chose to instead seal it in the center of the Earth. Are you saying all of this, the billions of deaths, the hell we live in, is because the Living Tribunal messed up? Pete looked like he was ready to blow his top. Everyone else felt the same. They all wanted to curse out the higher being until their voices were shot. However, they knew it wouldn't do any good. Not even Galactus would mess with the Living Tribunal. I swear, I think someone needs to replace him. What on earth made him think it was okay to seal that thing on a fully populated planet? Peter groaned as he wondered if he could somehow contact the one above all and tell him his worker messed up big time. Well, nothing we can do about that idiot, Deadpool added. Might as well enjoy what we still have. Anyone know any good campfire songs? Peter shook his head and jumped back inside the van and took a nap. He was wondering if his Vitaglaive would be enough to slay the Celestial and free the world from this threat. If that didn't work, he could always make a new planet for them to relocate to. The next morning, Miles had joined the party and were off, heading towards Paris at a steady pace. When they arrived, they all disembarked and saw the Monument of Apocalypse surrounded by tents and buildings. He had renovated the Louvre into his own private estate and had men moving back and forth while carrying building materials. Honey, I want you to wait inside for us to get back. Pete gave May a stern look. Okay. You too, Danielle. We'll be right back, I promise. Jessica kissed her daughter. Behave and stay with the dinosaur. Luke patted her head. Keep them safe and watch over the van. MJ kissed May on the forehead. As they went to the second floor of the tour bus, Peter grabbed something from behind Wade's seat and closed the door behind him. Stay here for a second. He strolled by them with a red and black painted sniper rifle. Hey, that's mine. Deadpool shouted. What are you doing with a gun? Pete asked. Killing Kilgrave. The very moment he dies will be the perfect chance for us to strike. I imagine it'll be harder for Apocalypse to escape or have any kind of advantage once we free his slaves. Whoa, this Spidey kills? I think I'm in love, Wade smirked. Your Peter has killed before. Aliens, monsters, animals, even an accidental death of a spy that was terminally ill. Not to mention any vampires or werewolves you've killed since. Life is life. Pete sighed because he knew that his younger self was right. Killing Kilgrave was the best choice they had. Not to mention, they didn't know if the symbiotes could protect them since Apocalypse boosted his mutation to an entirely new level. Wait. I should take the shot, Jessica spoke up. Can you make it? Without a doubt. Can you make this shot? Peter lifted a brow. Her silence was telling. Jess, let me do this for you. I'm not going to bloody your hands with that scum's life. Deadpool, this baby is your god killer, right? Yep. Vibranium casing, adamantium tipped, extra gunpowder for extra oomph, and a damn good scope too, Deadpool bragged. Good, should be enough to pierce the building once I add some runes, Peter said as he did just that. Using alchemy, he carved in magical runes that turned this weapon into a powerful railgun that could withstand the massive force shooting it caused. Now you can call it a god killer and it not be a boastful statement. Peter grinned before climbed up the tallest structure in the area, the Arc de Triomphe. Once he was on top of the archway, he aimed down the sights and said, Webster? On it, sir. Locating biological signature. Match found. Highlighting target. Calculating trajectory. Hit the crosshair on my go. Peter breathed out and stilled his heart before his finger hovered over the trigger. If there was one human Peter could kill without remorse, it was the blue man. Kilgrave was his most hated villain in Marvel. This guy hurt innocent people whenever he got the chance, just for shits and giggles, and was responsible for some of the most heinous crimes Peter could think of. He raped his friends and used her as a tool, destroyed her start as a hero, brainwashed countless people and made their lives a living hell, and killed more than a few heroes throughout his crime sprees. He may have let his version live due to wanting to keep his Jessica's hands clean, and today, he was going to spare her that pain again by taking his life. It would all come to an end at his hands. The very moment he lined up the shot, Kilgrave started to move away from his current crowded location and out of the captive's line of fire. Go! Peter pulled the trigger and felt the kick back. However, with his strength and his ability to stick to any surface, it was barely a tickle. A red light pulsed at the front of the barrel while the bullet shot out and created several sonic booms before hitting the building and passing through it. It traveled through several layers of concrete and stayed on course right up until it blew Kilgrave's head off. Seconds later, Cyclops lasers tore through the building and explosions went off left and right. Peter opened a portal and shouted, "Avengers, let's kick Apocalypse's ass." He hopped through the portal to see the villain in question flying back towards them. Cyclops fired his beam full force onto the giant ancient mutant. Beside him were Reed Richards, Dr. Octopus, a weakened Magneto, She-Hulk, Captain America, and Riri Williams. However, there was also Dracula, who didn't last more than a second as Blade snuck up behind him and cut his head off. Peter looked around for his usual posy of empowered mutants. He calls his horsemen but saw that no one was standing by his side. The spider hero walked towards him alongside the heroes that joined him and said, "Well, looks like that whole enslavement thing was a step down from your usual gig of tempting people." Apocalypse took one look at him and growled as he deflected Scott's eye beam back at him. While Captain America shielded him, he stared down the visitor from another universe and said, "Interloper, you ruined quite a few of my plans. But no matter, I alone am enough to deal with the likes of all of you combined." "It's a good thing I'm not alone." Peter shot out dozens more symbiotes to the freed heroes. He then pulled out his Vitaglaive and held it over his shoulder. "So I take you haven't learned anything about me or my capabilities." "If I had, do you think I'd be in this mess?" Apocalypse replied as he saw the small army of symbiote-wearing heroes. The villain tried to attack with a sudden punch when Peter grabbed his hand. Fully enhancing it with his chi combined with Hulk-tier physical body, he caught the villain's hand and slid back several feet before being pushed through a building. The others wanted to help, but he sent them all a telepathic message to let him handle it. Peter retracted his weapon and jumped into the air. He then hit the villain with a spinning back kick before Apocalypse punched the bottom of his heel. A clash erupted that was so powerful that it sent shockwaves across the entire Louvre. The spider hero was using everything he had. His chi, the powerful body that he nurtured, spells that enhanced his physical capabilities, and Webster's extraordinary enhancing effects. With pure physical ability alone, he thought that he would be more than a match for this foe. However, Apocalypse was far stronger than he thought he would be. In the comics, this guy could take on and defeat people like the Hulk and Thor, so Peter had his work cut out for him. The concussive force alone was enough to shatter every bone in his body, but it also grew back stronger. Peter punched out with his fist and collided with the giant mutant. Once again, the space around them quaked like the earth near a volcanic eruption. Bone and muscle tore, kinetic energy was absorbed, and his body grew stronger in response. Punch after punch, kick after kick, he was barely hanging on, but he didn't stop. Fire and determination burning in his eyes. He kept pushing forward. A minute had passed, but it felt like weeks. Every attack pushed his body to the limits. His constant buzzing from his spider senses was still firing off like the 4th of July. But Peter knew his opponent, knew him better than his foe knew himself. He had challenged the pretend god to a test of strength, and a man of his standing would never back down from such a challenge, especially when he knew that he was stronger. The second minute passed, and Peter's screams of pain had grown to mere grunts of discomfort. The third minute passed, and Peter was feeling good enough to start cracking jokes. "Hey, your face reminds me of that singing bass toy, the one, right?" Confused by the sudden insult, Apocalypse furrowed his brow and said, "You dare to insult this god? Here's a little song I wrote." Peter punched out as hard as he could. Their fists connected and destroyed the terrain around them, sending them both sliding back. "I'm going to sing it, note by." Peter kicked at his side. "Note." Apocalypse blocked and punched Peter in the head. "You should worry, you shouldn't be happy, get angry now." The blood dripped down Peter's forehead before it healed almost instantly. "That's not how that song goes," Deadpool shouted. "I said I wrote it." Peter shouted back as he ducked underneath a kick. "That's plagiarism." Deadpool loudly replied from the crowd watching everything go down. Peter bobbed and weaved out of the ancient mutant's attacks while looking at Deadpool as he said, "No, it's parody, Prodoi." "Silsence," Apocalypse shouted as he started getting serious. Peter saw the fist coming for his face and imagined his head popping off his shoulders. However, he braved forward and punched back with everything he had. Another crater formed from their impact while Peter shot back almost a dozen miles. Peter jumped back into the fray and the exchange started once again. They fought for another minute while Peter cracked jokes every second that he got. "Hey, are you naturally bald or do you shave? If it's the first, I might know a guy that can fix that for you." Peter took a blow that rattled his brain and shattered his skull. "I know it must be hard getting a date when you look like that." Peter used his elbow to rattle the villain's head, but choosing suicide by spider isn't the option. Apocalypse growled as his uppercut hit Spiderman in the gut, launching him miles into the air. Peter felt like his lung just tried to attempt a jailbreak. He swallowed down his pain and heeled as webbed back to the ground while stomping out with both his feet. Apocalypse raised his arms to block and was sent crashing through the earth. The kinetic force from the blow sent them both into an underground cavern where there was a confused Logan staring at them both. Apparently, he was being imprisoned here thanks Kilgrave's command to never leave the tunnels. He was just about to start digging out when the two came tumbling in. "Logan! Peter!" Apocalypse punched Spider-Man in the back, cracking his spine as he was sent flying face first into the stone surface. The force shot him back above ground while Logan tried to jump on the villain. The would-be god slapped the X-Man aside before jumping back through the ground. The moment he surfaced, Peter was there waiting for him. He webbed the ground and some distant debris and ran back before slingshotting himself over at his foe. With his foot extended, his kick cracked one of Apocalypse's ribs and sent him flying through the street and into a pile of cars that hadn't moved since the EMP. The two clashed fists once again when Peter realized that he was starting to catch up. His bones barely fractured this time. Another minute of grueling combat. It suddenly became apparent that Peter was starting to actually fight back. Blow for blow. He was matching Apocalypse and even started to win in a contest of strength. Another minute passed, and Peter's spider senses were no longer active. He was calm, felt stronger than ever, and smirked as he realized that he no longer needed any boosts to his raw strength. No chi, no symbiote, no enhancements of any kind. Just the power of his physique alone was more than enough to overcome this threat. "Hey, you slowing down in your old age?" Peter pooched him in the gut, causing him to keel over. He followed it up with 4 lightning-fast punches to his face, a jump kick to his neck, an elbow to the top of his skull, and a leaping side kick to his gut. Apocalypse couldn't believe he was losing. It didn't make any sense. He truly thought that no creature besides himself could evolve this rapidly. "I've had enough of this." Magic surrounded his fist as he punched out with everything he had. Peter tanked the attack, but it knocked him hundreds of miles into the air. Holy crap, he's strong with magic enhancements. But it's not like either of us agreed to play fair. "I guess I should end this now," Peter thought as he went into speedster mode and webbed himself back on the ground. With an instantaneous burst of speed, he appeared in front of the villain. Peter's hands moved faster than Apocalypse could see. He hadn't even noticed the sonic boom since they hadn't caught up yet. Without a second thought, he stabbed the villain through the chest with the Vitaglaive, lifting him off the ground before pinning him to a wall. "You think this will STO?" Apocalypse suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and stared at his hands in pure shock. "Yes, I know it can stop you. In fact, I know that it can kill you. You see this weapon piercing your heart? It was made to kill Celestials. Where did you get the na? It's not the Necrosword, but a creation of my own. The funny thing is the Necrosword's special ability allows it to wither all life away from those it cuts. My Vitaglaive does something else. It steals away the vital energies of those I pierce with it." Realization overcame the villain's expression as Peter smirked. "Don't!" The spider hero didn't listen. He absorbed the vital and mystical energies Apocalypse had amassed over his countless years of living. As he dried up like a raisin, Peter diverted his chi into his core and gained the ability to amplify and evolve the powers of mutants, and since he got it, that meant that Webster did too. Lastly, the mystical and cosmic energy was absorbed into the Vitaglaive, making it dozens of times stronger. His body turned to ash before Peter looked at the others who were staring at him out of pure shock. What? Chapter 112. Issue 112. The Amazing Web End. Peter noticed everyone staring at him with shocked expressions. "Dude, you didn't need us at all," Pete chuckled. "What are you talking about? You know not everyone was brainwashed. I'm sure there are plenty of loyalists and villains left around here." Peter nudged his head towards the building. "He's right," Doom spoke up as he pointed at the building. "Now is the time to take down the Apocalypse faction for good." The heroes donned in an overpowered symbiote turned their heads back to see those very same villains shaking frantically with looks of terror on their faces. "Right. Let's get to pew-pewing." Deadpool pulled out his handguns before he looked at Peter. "Can I have my god killer back?" "No, I'm keeping it as a souvenir," Peter chuckled as he showed it in his bag of holding before putting it back in. "Thief!" Deadpool shouted while pointing. "Oh my god, somebody get JJJ on the line, Spider-Man just stole my sniper rifle."
That menace.
Pete laughed as he charged into battle alongside his teammates. It took a few hours, but with a bunch of overpowered heroes, they managed to round up every last villain or loyalist from the dictatorship. They had telepathy on hand, so lying was pointless. They were able to safely separate those that were controlled and those that worked for Apocalypse willingly. Peter did the rounds. When he saw that everything was going fine, he went ahead and used alchemy and magic to put up a large Faraday cage that covered the entire Louvre. While he finished up, a portal opened up above him and his MJ fell through it, landing right beside him.
Miss me?
Always, Peter replied while holding his hand out. MJ took it and gave him a hug. So, what are you doing? Cleaning up before I go see if I can take care of a corrupted celestial, Peter added as he gave a kiss. MJ smiled and enjoyed the moment before saying, Think that's why you were sent here? Maybe. Sometimes I wish these higher beings would just be direct with what they want. It's always some mystic mumbo-jumbo veiled in secrecy. Totally get what you mean. Like, stop running in circles, just say it, MJ chuckled.
Hey,
we're all done here and ready to head off, Pete shouted out from on top of a nearby building. Peter opened a portal back to their newly built city and said, I'll be back in a bit. I have to see if I can take care of that thing in the center of the planet. Need some backup? I'm just going to check it out first, Peter replied as they all started to leave. He opened a portal to the center of the after the previous one closed. MJ stayed by his side and hopped through with him. They appeared in front of a large cavernous area that held a massive silver-colored celestial that looked more like a harbinger of destruction rather than a divine being. Peter noticed the bones and clothing of Dr. Strange nearby and sighed. We shouldn't touch his body, not without trying to deal with this guy first, MJ said as she created a massive coffin over the entire area, leaving just enough space so that nothing was disturbed. Peter walked up to the celestial, used the Vita glaive to cut through its hand.
A loud clang rang out as his blade sank into the Unmaker's arm.
It took all his strength, but it only managed to chop through at a snail's pace. Isn't that dangerous?
MJ asked. What if he wakes up?
Oh, this guy won't budge unless we shut down that portal, Peter declared as he cleaved the arm off. However, it regrew in an instant. This isn't working. Even if I chopped his head off, he wouldn't die. Peter stored the limb inside his bag and sighed. I might be able to do something about this guy, MJ said as she tilted her head.
You can.
Yeah, I mean, since Strange didn't open a portal around the Celestial, I'm guessing that means that we can't move him, we can't disturb the magnetic field either, but we might be able to reinforce the core so the EMP doesn't leak out as much. That's not a bad idea. Peter looked around at what he had to work with. Damn, did he open up a portal to the electromagnetic realm? Theses reading are off the charts. A neutron star doesn't remotely compare. Even if I do reinforce the surrounding area, I don't know if that'll fix the rest of the world. We won't know until we give it our best shot, MJ said as she gave him a wink. Peter nodded his head. Fair point. But first, I'm going to collect as much of this material as I can. It's not every day we get such good equipment for forging. Peter started hacking and slashing away at the giant celestial being. It continued to regrow at an insane pace, but Peter kept up. Using his speedster powers, he was able to cut the Unmaker down to just its heart. It looked like a tiny black sphere made of the darkest color he had ever seen before. He stabbed at it to try and attempt to kill the Celestial again, but his glaive actually bounced off. Peter's mind was suddenly pulled into the heart of ancient godlike being. He saw darkness, pitch-black voids that devoured everything, time, space, reason, all of it eaten and compressed in a singular and infinitely dense point. Then, something incredible happened. An explosion of intense light and a web pattern that engulfed everything. When he snapped out of his daze, MJ was standing next to him shouting in his ear.
Wake up!
Peter shook his head.
What the hell was that? How long was I out of it? About an hour.
He looked at his hands and smirked. I don't think this is a test from Merlin, but rather a test from my totem. Hey, MJ, think we can fix this thing? I mean, the whole reason the Unmaker is crazy is because the Celestial that designed it screwed up. If he had made it create as much as it destroyed, it might not have become corrupt at all. We can try, though I've never programmed a Celestial before, MJ replied as she held her hand to her chin. Peter looked at the completely reformed Unmaker and smirked as he readied his glaive. You know we actually have to prepare the spell first? MJ stopped her soon-to-be husband. He rubbed the back of his head and chuckled. Right. They spent almost 4 hours trying to come up with a good enough spell to rewrite the Celestial's programming. It was a monumental task, and they weren't sure they could pull it off. However, with enough trial and error, they managed to come up with something. We're going to need a lot of power to pull this off, MJ commented. We'll channel the Great Web. That should be all the power we need for the spell.
Well then, what are we waiting for?
MJ smirked. Peter once again chopped off every last piece of flesh, leaving only the heart. He then rushed back to MJ's side and held her hand.
Let's do this.
With a burst of intense magical energy, Peter and MJ connected to the web and started to create the spell needed to reprogram the godlike being. The power they leached from the web suddenly focused into Peter's gems and they all activated at the same time. Even his prime materia suddenly became active. Well, that helps, Peter thought as he suddenly channeled even more power into the spell. Thousands upon thousands of magic circles appeared around the Unmaker's heart and slammed into them. Trillions of zeros and ones appeared on its surface, and runes were ground into its core. They two spider heroes channeled the spell for almost an hour straight. When they were almost done, they felt a powerful resistance coming from the core. They were losing control when suddenly, another spell circle appeared and reinforced their magic. Peter's soul emerald glowed brightly as the astral form of Doctor Strange appeared beside him. "Keep it up, you two," the voice of their deceased master called out. Peter and MJ felt both relieved and saddened at the same time. However, they had no time to throw a pity party. They focused on the task at hand and poured in all their magical powers to channel the spell perfectly. When it finished, the spell was complete and the body of the Celestial regrew in a matter of seconds. Peter turned around to see their teacher's fading form. Strange looked at them and smiled before his soul started to vanish. "Thank you. I wish I had more time. But you know how it goes." "I wish I could do more for you," Peter sighed. "Say goodbye to my friends for me, let them know I'm okay." Strange vanished for good this time. He then sighed again and held his hand out, snapping his fingers once more. A pile of flowers spread around the coffin and a tombstone was erected with the words, "Here lies the greatest sorcerer to ever exist. Dr. Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, hero, teacher, and honorable friend. May his soul rest and find peace in the afterlife." MJ put her hand on his shoulder and said, "He's not our Strange." "No, but that doesn't make him any less important," Peter replied before snapping his finger. "I with you on that." MJ placed her head against his while the entire area surrounding the cavernous area was suddenly layered with several dozen plates of EMP-resistant materials. However, even with all of that, he couldn't completely halt the EMP from escaping. At most, everything 13,000 feet above sea level should be safe from the EMP now," Peter mumbled as he looked at the portal. "We shouldn't mess with it. It'll take decades for the big guy's programming to take effect." MJ shook her head. "As long as no one touches his body, this thing will remain open. Should we make a timed spell to open up another portal? If I use the stones, I might just be able to move this thing when the time comes." "Yeah, that sounds good," MJ said as she started preparing the spell. "I should take about 580 years to finish, and then hopefully it willingly go through the portal when it wakes up. You should put it near a black hole. Perfect bait, wouldn't you say?" "Brilliant idea, love." Peter kissed her on the cheek. Once the spell was set, they were ready to leave. Peter opened a portal back to the outskirts of New York. They found themselves standing in front of the city Peter built and noticed that there was a sign welded onto the Faraday cage. New York, ha, they gave it a name. Hopefully that's a work in progress. It's terrible, Peter chuckled. Neat Faraday cage. MJ looked around. Hey, welcome back. Matt Murdock shouted from above. He slipped through the cage and landed in front of them. Everyone's been waiting. Good, they're here. I figure we can spend around 2 days before he have to get home. If I make a time acceleration spell, I can probably teach you everything I know before I get back. They walked inside and made their way to center of the city. All of Apocalypse's victims celebrated their return. Shore was reunited with her kids and husband. Cyclops and Logan were drinking together and laughing. Steve and Tony were cheering with a bottle of scotch in their hands. And Raven happily celebrated Magneto's recovery and renewed youth. Everyone wearing his symbiote was happy to get back the years they've been living in this apocalyptic world they call home. Peter introduced his soon-to-be wife and went on to set up a school where he and MJ could begin their lessons on magic and alchemy. So how long can you extend our time in here? Pete asked as he looked at the large school. I can stay for 2 days, and at most, I can turn 1 day into 80 inside here. That should be more than enough to teach everyone the basics. 160 days, so a little under half a year, MJ rubbed her chin. I think we can pull it off. Well, we should get started then, Peter replied as they walked inside and set up the spell. And so began the age of alchemy and magic for this universe. Peter and MJ drilled the basics into them while filling up the school with copies books containing magical knowledge. The symbiote and telepathy speed up the process greatly, and before they knew it, almost all of them had developed personalized forms magic in one way or another. Peter was proud of what he accomplished. Without Apocalypse or Dracula in the picture, they stood a much better chance at taking back their world. They were a little sad to see the symbiote copy leave, but those who had the foresight were able to gain new powers with its ability to augment their genetic coding before Peter took it back. Pete was able to figure how to make his own, so it was only a matter of time until the symbiote tech would appear in this universe. He was looking forward to making one for his family. When it came time to leave, Peter stood next to a portal entrance surrounded by the superheroes of this world.
"We're gonna miss you, man." Pete held his hand out.
Peter shook. "I'm sure you'll figure multidimensional travel in no time.
"I got a wedding to prepare for."
"Don't let us keep you." Mary Jane held her husband and kid.
"See ya later, other mom and dad."
May joked. "It's always nice getting to meet a daughter of mine. Take care of your parents, May," MJ replied. "You know, Victor, the world needs a new sorcerer supreme."
They may have taken the knowledge Kamartaj has to offer, but the facilities might still be around.
We'll look into it." Doom nodded his head with respect. "Don't think thanks does what you did for us justice." Tony shook their hands. "Just keep up with your studies," MJ chuckled. "Ma'am, do you know who you're talking to?" "The biggest ego that isn't a planet," Peter chuckled.
Ha ha ha.
"I don't know, I think he's got ego beat in that department," Steve added in. "It's been an honor fighting alongside you," Storm spoke up. "Make sure to teach your hubby all those neat tricks," MJ smiled. "I'll do my best," Aurora laughed. "Visit us sometime," Pepper smiled.
"If we have time," Peter nodded his head.
"Ooh, so we can stay in touch." MJ gave the Parkers their own cross-dimensional communication device.
"Why's mine?"
Tony asked. "Sorry, Spider Club." "Oh, that's cool. I managed to copy those powers, so I get one too, right?" Tony grinned.
Ha 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 ha.
"I wonder how many of you guys managed to do that. I guess this universe has a lot of spider totems now, but no. Make your own." Peter hopped through the portal. "It's powered by magic, so even in the EMP it'll work." MJ followed after. "I'm gonna miss those guys," Fury smiled. "And if you ever tell them I said that, I'm going to put my lead where the sun don't shine." Everyone chuckled or back away from Fury. "I hope they have an amazing wedding." Pete looked on as the portal closed behind them. Author note. Forgot to post this one. Currently working on the next 10 chapters of Reborn as Vegeta, and I'm already 6K into it. Spider-Man will be back with another saga about Thanos, Galactus, and their wedding. Any idea where I should send them for their honeymoon? Out of any place that can exist in the multiverse, I want to hear what you guys want. No Walking Dead or Last of Us, Alien Warlord's already doing that. I was thinking of MHA or Full Metal Alchemist, possibly a giant mecha series. Make sure to comment so I can hear your opinions. Seriously though, if Alien Warlord is reading this, I want to plan a crossover event with you for the Inheritors event. Kind of wish this site had a way to contact other authors. We have such similar ideas. I know we can make some funny chapters. Kind of want to see if I can get writers from other fanfics on board too. It'd be fun to have all the fanfiction Spider-Men fighting together. If that doesn't pan out, I might use my other Spider-Man from Web of Dragons.